listening to the Identity at the Center podcast. This is the show that talks about identity and access management and making sure you know who has access to what. Let's get started. Welcome to a special episode of the Identity at the Center podcast. I'm Jeff, and that's Jim. Hey, Jim.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Oh, not so bad. Going to cut right to it today. We don't do commercials, but since this is a special episode, we will help get the word out for identity conferences that we like. We're going to take a few extra minutes today to get a preview of the Authenticate 2021 conference happening October 18th to the 20th in Seattle, Washington. And it's hosted by our friends at the FIDO Alliance. Joining us today again is Andrew Shikiar. He's the executive director of the FIDO Alliance to tell us what that is all about. Welcome back, Andrew.
Jeff, Jim, great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. And it's been a while since we talked. The last time we talked was August in 2020. What's new with FIDO since then?
First of all, that feels like 2 years ago. So quite a bit has happened. I'll try to be succinct. In general, FIDO continues to make progress on advancing our specifications and related outputs. Our goal is, again, to have a robust set of standards that anyone could deploy to enable simpler, stronger user authentication, helping move the marketplace in the world from being dependent on passwords to a world that's more decentralized in nature, that leverages user-friendly public key cryptography. So basically, moving from knowledge-based authentication to possession-based authentication. A couple key things we've done. One big release that we had was an update to the FIDO 2 specs that introduced a lot of enterprise features, which are very important, and also some added functionality for payments and things like that. Another key thing that got completed were UX guidelines, so user experience guidelines. At the end of the day, going to a passwordless world will be easier, but getting people to go passwordless turns out to be more nuanced than one would think. So answering questions like, well, how do I get my customers to enroll a desktop platform authenticator, like a Touch ID on a MacBook or Windows Hello on a Windows machine? There's a lot of subtle things that go into that. So we, with the help of UX leads from companies such as Microsoft, JP Morgan Chase, Intuit, Wells Fargo, and many, many more, Visa, ran a study that had 3 rounds of user testing to understand exactly what makes consumers most likely to enroll for FIDO authentication. And we took these learnings and built a set of guidelines around them, which any relying party or service provider can use to most effectively implement FIDO on their websites. So we're super excited about that. We released those a couple months ago. We've had some positive feedback so far, and we think it's going to really help accelerate adoption of FIDO authentication. And beyond that, we're seeing broader commitment to FIDO in the marketplace. More and more big brands deploying FIDO, added government endorsements, including here in the U.S. Just the other week, AWS or Amazon announced that any AWS customer will be provided with FIDO security keys to make sure that those network administrators are securely accessing those resources. So we're seeing more and more major kind of milestones like that as we all collectively work to create a safer internet.
Andrew, Jeff mentioned that the Authenticate 2021 conference is in Seattle, Washington. It's starting on October 18th. My question for you is, who is this conference for? Who should attend?
Yeah, we introduced Authenticate last year, actually, as a means to just really engage with the broader community. We, traditionally have had member meetings, 3-4 member meetings a year, and would hold a public seminar the day before. And those are so popular, both from attendees and from our members, that we decided to expand upon this format and aim to provide educational resources to anyone interested in FIDO. But in particular, product leads and strategists, CISOs and those in the CISO office, technology leads, developers, really anyone who's interested in learning how to improve the way that they're authenticating or deploying authentication inside the enterprise and also externally to consumers. And so last year we held a virtual event, I think it was last November, had really strong attendance. Thousands of people registered over a 2-week period. So a lot of great content, and we're super happy to build upon that by moving towards this physical conference this year in Seattle.
I love that tagline, moving from knowledge-based authentication to possession-based authentication. On the conference, in terms of the agenda, can you give us an overview and talk about some of the keynotes?
Yeah, absolutely. So our featured keynote is Bob Lord. And for those of you who don't know Bob, he's a former chief security officer at the DNC, so Democratic National Committee. And before that, he was at Yahoo and Cisco, and we could probably have Bob talk for 3 days. I mean, he has war stories and perspectives on security and authentication that are so engaging and so rich. We're really honored to have him come up to Seattle to give that keynote. Additionally, our signature sponsors from the event are Google, Microsoft, Visa, and Yubico. So we have executives from each of those companies as keynotes as well. Each of them have a different perspective. Google's going to talk about Android. Microsoft, of course, is deeply committed to FIDO and identity. Visa has some identity products rolling out, and Yubico, of course, is the originator of FIDO security keys and has a lot of learnings to share as well. So those are the keynotes. We have some others as well, some kind of industry luminaries speaking on the main stage, and then the format of the event itself is you part main stage / keynote type presentations, and then multi-track. And we'll generally have one track dedicated to kind of deeper technical insights, and one track focused on case studies, kind of market adoption type trends. And both two are chock full of interesting content that I think people will learn a lot from when they attend.
Jeff and I will be in attendance as well. We're presenting a presentation called Smart IAM to help prevent ransomware risk. I was just looking over the agenda. I think there's a ton of great information out there. Obviously, I wanted you to help keep it high level and focus on the keynotes. But if people want to understand more about what they could learn and what the different presentations are going to be during the conference, where can they go to get that information? Do you have a website?
Yeah, absolutely. We have the full agenda on our website, on authenticatecon.com, Authenticate Conference, right? Authenticatecon.com. You can see the full agenda. Just a couple more highlights, if I could. Case studies are always quite popular, and a little anecdote on this. So we did a call for papers. It's a 2.5-3 day conference. 2 tracks. All told, we had around 35 open spots, and we had many fold that in submitted applications, including your own. And so we have a program committee of industry luminaries who helped narrow it down to the selected sessions that we do have. But the case studies are always one of my favorite things to see coming in. They're unsolicited. We have case studies from groups like Morgan Stanley, Capital One, Target, eBay, Verizon, Wayfair, U.S. National Guard, Facebook, and many more. So I've always heard from our community that they like learning from others who have already done the same. And these case studies are an excellent foundation for that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to catching those as well. It wouldn't be a conference conversation in 2021 without talking about COVID. I mean, it's clearly had an impact on things like in-person attendance for things like this. How are you preparing for that? And what about things like, vaccinations and statuses and things like that?
I think all of us who in the past have attended conferences miss that human interaction, and it's very important to FIDO Alliance to execute on this conference. I personally attended Identiverse back in June, and that's always my favorite identity show to go to, and it was wonderful. It was a smaller subset of people than usually attend that conference, but being able to chat with people in the hallways after my talks, at their booths, you find so much hidden value through those conversations that frankly just wouldn't happen over Zoom. So with that in mind, and with our commitment to having this event, we absolutely are also committed to having it be perfectly safe, or as safe as possible. Nothing's perfect. And so we're requiring vaccination. All right. So to attend, you must be vaccinated. We have the policy detail on the website, but in short, we're going to be using the Clear app, which has also been used for other events. And attendees will be asked to upload their proof of vaccination into the app. There's a simple health screening on the app that's done the day of registration to attest to the fact that you have been healthy in addition to your vaccination. In addition to that, it will be adhering to all federal and local health guidelines. So I'm very confident that we're going to have a very safe and healthy event. I've had very positive feedback on the vaccination requirement. I've been told by several people that's helped them internally tell their management that not only do I want to go to this, it's safe for me to attend. And I hope that many people find that to be the case and are able to come have a very robust event. Most of the stuff will happen on site at the hotel, which also has their own hygiene regimen. But I also want to plug, we have a great social event Wednesday night at the Mopop Museum. This is a museum of pop culture. It used to be the Jimi Hendrix Museum. It's an awesome venue in Seattle. So we should have a really good event to cap things off on Wednesday evening.
It sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm glad that the precautions being taken. I can certainly attest to the Clear app and the digital vaccine card. I've done it; it's easy.
Yeah.
You take a picture, you authenticate. So I'm happy to see that an Authenticate conference is using good authentication to cover that sort of thing.
Got to eat her own dog food.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this conversation. We just wanted to kind of keep it brief and kind of get the word out for folks who might be interested. Again, it's the Authenticate 2021 conference. It's October 18th to 20th in Seattle, Washington. It's in person or virtual. You can visit authenticatecon.com for more info. And if you're interested in learning more about the FIDO Alliance, you can visit fidoalliance.org. And you can also go into the Wayback Machine and listen to episode 56 of this podcast, where we first met with Andrew and kind of learned more about what FIDO does. Jim mentioned he and I are going to be are planning on being on site there and delivering our presentation. So we hope to see everyone there either in person or virtually. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close out this brief conversation. Thank you so much, Andrew. Looking forward to getting a fist bump in finally in person at a conference. It'll be my first since this kind of all started. But we'll go ahead and leave it there. Thanks for listening, and we'll hope to see you in a few weeks.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Identity at the Center podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and visit us on the web at identityatthecenter.com.